Hi, my name is Dr. Fab, and I just reviewed the 20-point piece, so called um, proposal by Donald Trump that has already been approved and endorsed by most of the Muslim countries except Iran, and that has also been accepted by Netanyahu. I just want to say something. This plan is bogus, and it's going to cause a lot of volatility and instability in the region. One of the basic reasons behind that is that in the last 2 years, the escalation of violence against the Palestinian people, to the point where we are now talking about 500,000 Palestinians losing their lives, out of which 250,000 were children less than 5 years old. This is not an ordinary historic event that you can just shrug off and say, okay, I have this 20-point proposal algorithm that's going to bring peace. You have to, when you're writing your peace accord, you have to kind of try to entail and include the lives of those 500,000 Palestinians that were killed, that were butchered mercilessly in the last 2 years. What is going to happen out of this brutal manslaughter? Do you think the families of those children and women who were killed and martyred and bombed using US bombs and using Israeli guns, they're going to just shrug it off and say, yeah, we want peace and we are going to go for it, and we want no more conflict, and we want no more justice, and we are fine, we are happy with President Trump's peace plan because he's going to develop a paradise for us in the Strip of Gaza. This plan is so short-sighted. This plan is full of mistakes. And it looks like a very immature person wrote this plan. There is epic lack of insight, and this was most likely done by like a high school student. At least the person who wrote it has the mind frame of a high school student, or someone who's very apathetic, who does not understand the dynamics of how the world works. We have seen a genocide. Yes, a genocide has been committed. US has funded it. US has armed it. US has done it to appease its military-industrial complex that runs the country, and also to appease its ideological cult. There is a combination of the extremist right in US who want to eradicate Islam, and they're happy that so many children were killed, and for them this is ethnic cleansing of not just the Palestinian people but also part of the program to eradicate Muslims from the rest of the world, to eradicate Islam. So they're happy about it. This is like there's this cult group in US that has severe Islamophobia, and that has been completely supporting the program of genociding millions of Palestinians and occupying the rest of the Middle East. So we have this kind of Americans on one side who were very happy with the genocide, who don't want it to stop, and if stopped, they want to do it in a way that the conflict never stops. The second thing is the second sort of Americans who are supporting this genocide, who are sitting in the US Congress, are on the paycheck of IPAC, which is the Israeli lobbyist group, which actually throws millions and millions of dollars whenever they run their election campaigns. And they have unwavering support for Israeli national interests. And they are in a state of complete worshipping of the Israeli lobbies and the Israeli national interests and the Israeli leadership. So they gave Netanyahu a standing ovation, as we saw in the last week, a few days ago, and they clapped for him for almost 4-5 minutes, and that was all of the US Congress, including the Democratic Party, including the Republican Party. So it was kind of a unanimous thing that Netanyahu was hailed as a hero and not as a war criminal. So we have that kind of an American group that is very powerful, sitting in very powerful positions to control the narrative, to control the entire outcome of the genocide, terrorism that they have committed against the Palestinian people. They are sitting there in very powerful positions, and they want to end this genocide on their terms, and they want to do it in a way that the genocide actually never ends, and the escalation of violence continues, and their narrative, their rhetoric is continued and propagated all over the world. So we have that group of American people, or American lawmakers, who are trying to shove the idea of a volatile Middle East as in the national interest of US down the throats of not just the American people but the rest of the world too. They're saying it's good, it's the right thing to do, it's a war and we are winning the war, and Netanyahu is fighting for us and for our national interests, and he's our hero and we should hail him as such. But they're corrupt, they get bribes from the IPAC lobby, and so we have that group also wanting to do this. And then on top of that, on top of these kind of groups in US, we have Trump. We have Donald Trump, who was supposed to end all wars, who won the election because he said he was going to end all wars and he's going to neutralize the military-industrial complex. However, as we have seen, he has been sending arms to Israel, and he has been continuing the conflict, and he has been continuing the genocide in spite of winning the Muslim vote from Michigan on the basis of his promise that he was going to end the genocide. He never stopped even for a second from bombing the people of Gaza. And so we have this cocktail of various groups in US that have united to create escalation of violence against the people of Gaza. This was all pre-planned, this was all premeditated. This did not happen because of 7th October. According to latest strategic analysis, 7th October was actually supposed to be facilitated by the Israeli government so that they could justify the response. So when they say that, now they're saying that they want Hamas to lay down their weapons, they want Hamas to leave or learn to stay in peaceful coexistence with Israel. And I'm just trying to say something very sensitive over here. If Hamas is forced into laying weapons and leave the Gaza Strip, or even Hamas is allowed to forced into submission and subservience, and we are looking at an uprise, an upsurge of hundreds of groups and factions within the Gaza territory and within the rest of the Middle East who are going to pick up weapons to get justice for the 2-year genocide of 500,000 people of Gaza. So technically, if President Trump was really interested in having peace, he would have invited Hamas to his White House and invested into a dialogue for peace with Hamas. We saw at the UNGA as well that Netanyahu, who's a convicted felon, who's wanted by the International Criminal Court, was allowed to address the rest of the world in spite of having arrest warrants against him. But Hamas, that is technically the opposite party, and that has the support of most of the people of Gaza, was not given the opportunity to either hold the podium at the UNGA or even be invited to the White House to discuss this plan. It's like the plan has been thrown into the court of Hamas. Lay down your weapons, surrender, give up whatever you were fighting for, and become our slave. And what will happen eventually is, okay, even if the Hamas leaders, out of coercion from their Muslim brothers and sisters in the rest of the Muslim world, agree to this plan, what's going to happen is an immediate explosion of at least 10 to 20 factions that will be carrying weapons and that will be doing so to take revenge and to get justice for those Palestinians who were brutally murdered by the US mediated genocide in Gaza via Israel. So it is the need of the United States government, whether they acknowledge it or not, to try to mediate a direct dialogue of peace with Hamas and give Hamas importance as the opposing leadership and make it a strong part of the entire peace process. Because if Hamas is allowed to continue in Gaza as a powerful ruling body after a peace accord is reached with Hamas by Trump, Hamas will make sure that no other faction picks up a weapon to do anything. This is common sense. You need common sense to understand this point, which Trump does not have, which US Congress does not have. They are literally signing a self-destructive peace plan by coercing and pressurizing Hamas to give up and surrender the weapons. Do you think that if Hamas gives up the weapons and surrenders and leaves or stays as your slave, this is going to be it? No one else is going to respond to what you guys did in the last 2 years? Do you think nobody is going to stand up to fight for justice, to fight for the freedom of the people of Gaza and Palestine? The freedom struggle, the resistance movement has been going on for the last 70 plus years. Hamas was not formed 70 plus years ago. The area has been burning non-stop for the last 7 decades. You think by forcing Hamas to lay down their weapons, this is it? This is going to end it all? No. The only possible solution to the entire volatility, the entire violence, the entire conflict is that you give equal representation, equal rights, equal justice to the people of Palestine. You give them their well-deserved right of statehood and their right to keep an army for their self-defense, to keep their kids safe from bombs. You need to give them those rights. Are you going to be able to give them those rights? When you write this bogus peace plan, my question to the entire US Congress and President Trump is, are you willing to give the Palestinians not just the right of a statehood, but also the right of self-defense, the right to build a national army guard that can protect their kids from getting bombed by Israel? Can you give that right? When you were writing this peace accord, did you have this in your mind, that you're willing to give Palestinians the right to exist, the right to a statehood, the right to have their army, the right to have their self-defense against any incoming threats, the right to have an air force, the right to have a navy, the right to have a Palestinian army? Are you going to continue with your rhetoric? Oh, they're terrorists because they deserve to die, because they are Muslims, because the Islamophobia, extreme right cult wants you to eradicate, Muslims wherever you can, because Tony Blair says so, because Iraq, you guys killed 1 million Iraqis without even frowning once, and now you have killed 500,000 Muslims, even Christians, not just Muslims, even Christians in Gaza. Literally, Israel has eradicated the footprints of Christianity from the most sacred sites in Gaza with its indiscriminate bombing. And this was done with the signatures of not just Joe Biden, but also Donald Trump. So, when you wrote this peace accord, did you have this thing in your mind that now you're going to be able to give Palestinians their right of statehood, their right of self-defense, their right of having an army of their own? No. What you're doing is dirty politics. What you're doing is that you want to show your wealthy, powerful lobbyists that, look, we forced Hamas to lay down its weapons, so we achieved victory. You're going to try to hail victory out of this entire peace accord, which is a big sham, and you are not going to give justice to the families of 500,000 Palestinians who were brutally murdered by your arms, by your funds, by your approval. And what's going to happen as a result is that once Hamas is gone out of the picture under coercion of the rest of the brethren Muslim countries, you are going to face an explosion. I'm repeating this word, an explosion of at least 10 to 20 factions that will carry weapons, that would want to have the right to fight for justice for those 500,000 Palestinians who were brutally murdered by Israel and by US. It's going to be a breeding ground. It already is. You guys did this. You cannot just say, oh, okay, you know what? We killed so many people and now we should stop killing because our country is kind of getting bankrupt in this war, and we need the trillions of dollars that the Muslim countries promised us. So we should try to figure out a way to get those trillions of dollars from Muslim countries, and then also try to get our economy back. So, and then we should also do it in a way that we can hail victory to the rest of our investors who hate Islam and who believe in complete eradication of Muslims. And then we should also be able to please our military industrial complex, corporate military contractors. So this is not how you're going to achieve peace. You want peace, you have to bring Hamas on the table in the White House, in the Oval Office. And you have to talk to Hamas, and you have to have Hamas take responsibility that after this, because Hamas has that influence in Gaza, you have to make sure that Hamas is there and takes responsibility so that the entire zone remains conflict free. You cannot do that without having Hamas come to the White House and without giving Hamas the opportunity to talk to the UNGA at the podium. Just because you call it a terrorist and you're literally cracking down on various university students as Hamas sympathizers, you cannot eliminate the presence of Hamas, which is a very strong presence. And if you try to forcefully eliminate Hamas out of the picture, which you're trying to do through this sham contract, you are going to actually give rise yourself to 20 Hamas-like groups to fill the vacuum very quickly, because people are upset and perturbed and very, very concerned because of what Israel was allowed to do under your supervision. We have seen pictures of mutilated babies. We are seeing literally tents on fire, patients, doctors getting killed. You have given Israel a complete autonomous control over this for the last 2 years. And you have given complete support, whether it's fiscal support, whether it's diplomatic support, whether it's support with arms. You're still standing for 4 minutes in your Congress and clapping for a war criminal. And you think that by removing Hamas out of the picture, you're going to achieve peace and complete subservience and kind of a mini colony of US in Gaza? Seriously? You absolutely have no idea what kind of a hornet's nest you're going to step into if Hamas goes away. Palestinian Authority does not have the strong hold over Gaza. People of Gaza stand by Hamas. And as per democratic rules, if you can talk to the head of the state of North Korea, even though you have a serious issue with him, but you have gone and spoken with him and given him the same importance you would give to the head of a state of your rival country. So you need to treat Hamas that way too. And if you're not going to treat Hamas that way, if you're going to force Hamas through your allies in the Muslim world to leave, you're going to yourself create 10 to 20 new Hamas-like groups within the region. They probably are already there, they're forming. Because people are angry. Not just the world is angry, the people are angry. The people who are living there are angry. They're upset. What you did in the last 2 years is horrific. You committed war crimes. You committed genocide. You killed babies. You killed children. You killed activists. You killed journalists. You killed doctors. You killed paramedics. You killed everything you could think of, everybody you could think of. So you have broken every international law in the entire entire, encyclopedia of law. Not just the United States law, but international law. And now you think you can get away with it by eradicating Hamas from the picture, by forcing Hamas through your allied pressure group to give up their weapons, leave, or become a slave. If Hamas is removed, you're talking about 10 different Hamas-like groups that are going to spring up, because there will be a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to be filled up by others. So there's going to be Hamas, or just name it. They're going to be like 10 different groups that are going to rise up for justice. The best way, if you're really sincere for peace, if you really want peace, peace cannot be achieved this way. In order to give peace, you need to give Palestinians justice, which means you need to allow Israeli war criminals to be indicted for their war crimes. You need to have Biden get sanctioned for committing war crimes and starting this genocide. You need to face the law. You need to face justice. If you want peace, you have to give justice. Without justice, there will be no peace, because people are angry. And even if you remove Hamas out of the entire picture by using one way or another, you cannot achieve peace. You're basically gonna breed more weaponized factions that are gonna pick up weapons and that are gonna do so to get justice for the massacre that you committed. So if you want peace, you have to talk to Hamas, and you have to treat Hamas as the leader of a country, of a state. And you have to bring Hamas to the table, negotiate with Hamas directly the peace accord. And after Hamas signs that peace accord, you have to give Hamas the responsibility of keeping peace functional. And this is not going to happen if Hamas is removed out of the picture. And I think one of the biggest reasons why Netanyahu wants Hamas to be removed is because Netanyahu wants the peace to be foiled, because Netanyahu knows that once Hamas is allowed to leave and there's a vacuum in place, Netanyahu can fill up that vacuum with ISIS-like factions that are on the paycheck of Netanyahu, that Netanyahu can control, and that are going to continue the bloodshed. So Netanyahu is going to basically make use of this vacuum left by Hamas removal with his own self-paid, self-sponsored, self-armed groups to keep the war going. So Netanyahu is going to fund both sides of the conflict, arm both sides of the conflict, to continue to justify its escalation of violence. This is what the plan is. And I'm telling you right now, this is where it's going. Bye-bye.